it's been a pretty positive group situation. The first time they won a group in a tournament since 2006. Going into this round of 16, it's the best goal difference they've ever had in a major tournament as well. So, Simon, from your perspective, is it actually should we be taking lots of positives from this group stage for England rather than what we were hearing after that USA performance?
Look, I think so in large parts, with the caveat that the defence hasn't really been tested as yet, in my opinion. And yet, strangely enough, the last two games against the USA and Wales, and I was at the Wales game, the defence have played very well as a unit. But that's still my big question mark. I think England will score goals. We've seen that already, 9 in the group stage. I think there's a lot of positives going forward, and he seems to have the balance right as well at the moment. But I just have that little question mark when they get up against the better sides, whether that defensive unit is going to be strong enough. And it's no reflection on the individuals concerned. They're obviously the best in the country at what they do, but are they good enough to go deep into this tournament? I think they'll probably be good enough for Senegal, but then quarterfinals, it's France, and I've seen them in the flesh already, and boy, that's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, they can. France can scare you, and I think Brazil can scare you. I think they're the two standout teams. The one thing that stands out for me is the spine of the England team, where you go from Pickford to obviously Maguire, centre-halves John Stones, and then you go Declan Rice and then Harry Kane. That seems to be the whole basis. I'll probably go to you, Mark, on this one with England. That is really strong.
It is, yeah. But it is strong, but it hasn't really been tested, like we said, in terms of quality. The issue with England is always the same, that when they play against a team that can pass the ball and keep the ball, how can they deal with it? And I think, can that midfield of Rice and Bellingham actually deal with that? We haven't got a Modric or a Verratti or somebody that can actually control the game. And that's what worries me a little bit, because that, Senegal, I think England have come through a group, which a kind of a weak group. Wales, for me, were the second worst team in the tournament behind Qatar, and they weren't very strong. And I think the USA gave England a game, and Iran were poor. So England haven't been tested, really. I think Senegal will be a step up. Obviously, no Sadio Mane is a big thing, because if he'd been playing, that would have been a totally different proposition. But there's still, good goalkeeper in Mendy, good centre-half Koulibaly. Ismail Assar has shown in the past that he can hurt good teams, that had to against Liverpool for Watford. So this is a step up. I think England will get through it, but like you say, France ahead, tough.
Mark, why can't we produce that sort of play? Why can't we produce a Modric, for example?
Yeah, I mean, how many have we had over the years? Scholes, Gascoigne? There's not many, are there? I mean, I don't know. I mean, England now are producing talented players like Phil Foden and these great young players, but that guy who can just play a game and just control it, no, just can't find him.
I just think, watching him live the other day, as I did with Croatia, Modric is up there with one of the greatest players of all time for me. Yeah. Some of the things, said to Nat yesterday, the amount of feints he does. He feints to do something. He'll be in a tight situation. He's got two bodies around him. He'll feint to pass it and then get out of it. And you think he's cool. And he's got this little flick of the outside of his boot all the time that he just sees things up. I mean, at 37, we've talked about some of the players earlier on, Simon, about, that probably their last tournament not played particularly well. Modric has just been superb again in the opening games.
And he's about 8 stone wet through, and he dominates the midfield, not just with his touch and his balance, but with his strength as well. I mean, he seems to be physically strong enough to be able to deal with that, which is, a very congested area of the pitch. And it's an area of the field where, you have to get through a lot of work, and you've got to be physically strong as well. And I mean, he's just an amazing player. And you go back to the previous generation, a similar sort of, but not exactly the same sort of play, but Andrea Pirlo, that sort of player that can control a game, that England just, I don't know why we can't produce that sort of play. Maybe it's a mentality thing. Maybe we don't trust that sort of player.
The Premier League is very much kind of intensity.
Box to box.
Yeah. And I suppose, I mean, you can't say that those players aren't equipped to play in the Premier League. Of course they are, but everyone wants to get forward quickly and, in the attacking final third. They're not players that are designed or required in the Premier League.
That's why we produce a Lampard and a Gerrard, who are fantastic players, but not quite the same.
And the Bellingham is the same, But you look at Liverpool, they brought in Thiago Alcantara to do that job. They haven't got that player in the Premier League. And if England had a Thiago or a Modric or a Verratti or a Scholes, then I think you'd be talking about...
I would have said, obviously, he never reached the heights because of his injuries. But Jack Wilshere looked like that type of player that all the things we're talking about. But Jack obviously had so many injuries.
Michael Carrick was one that we never really gave a chance to, and probably not the level of a Modric, but it could control the game, the tempo of the game, and find a pass. But these players, Glenn Hoddle even back in the day, they're just never really trusted to play.
Right, well, we're talking negatives here. Let's talk positives, because we've got a last 16 clash to look forward to with Senegal.
We're English, we like negatives.
This is true. We wouldn't be right if we weren't starting on a negative. But we know with the Wales game, Gareth Southgate made a number of changes. What will he do against Senegal? Will he stick with a back four, Mark, or do you think he could go with a back 3-5, depending how you like to interpret it?
This is the big question with Southgate, is when he's got this dilemma of, do I go bold or do I kind of go safe? And this is where sometimes he can fall down. And I think I'd be tempted to go with the team that beat Wales. Stick with Rashford, stick with Foden. But that'd be quite a bold approach to Gareth Southgate, and I'm not quite sure he's there yet. That is my concern. But I do think they've got the players. It's not a bad dilemma to have, because they've got talent all over the pitch. But I'm just not sure whether he'll just be a bit more cautious.
Do you think Rashford has earned his place in that starting lineup? He's amongst a clutch of players on the most amount of goals scored already. You can't omit him, surely?
100%. He's got to start for me.
Yeah.
I thought they looked very good going forward, particularly the second half against Wales. As a Man City fan, obviously, I want to see Phil Foden start. And quite frankly, given the form that he's been in for Manchester City this season, I can't see why he's not starting. So I'd be, in a similar vein as Mark, I'd be going with the team. The old maxim is you don't change a winning side. And they looked very good in that second half against Wales. And Rashford, for me, definitely has to start. My one question mark, I think, at the moment, and this would probably sound like sacrilege, but Harry Kane doesn't look 100% to me. I know he's carrying this ankle injury. I thought Callum Wilson was excellent when he came off the bench, to be honest. I'm not saying I'd start him, because obviously Harry Kane is such a key player, but he doesn't look just 100% to me. I don't know if you agree.
I think the one thing that goes for Harry Kane, apart from we know he can get goals, is that he's already got 3 assists as well.
Yeah.
I agree with that, though. I think the ship has sailed now. The Wales game was the game to rest Harry Kane, because England were through pretty much, and if he'd rested him in that game, he would have had I think 7-8 days between games, and he's got this ankle knock. I know he wants to play, but I think he's played every Premier League game for Tottenham. There are times when as a manager, you have to say, look, for the benefit of you and the team, take a day out and then just come back fresher for the knockout stages. France have done it, Brazil have done it, Spain they've rested the key players and had negative results, but it'll benefit them in the long run.